Hi, my friends. I am coming live with a really fun guest, Lynsey Harper. She runs a company called Rosie, Meet Rosie, which some of you may know. I'm really excited about having her here, and I'm excited about having all of you here. And I'm like, hi, Haley Thomas. I'm starting to learn how to actually read things as they come through. We're going to be talking about Meet Rosie, which is a very, very cool app. I a little nervous because I'm at oh, here we go. There, I see Lyndsey. I'm in a hotel, actually. Oops, sorry. I want to invite, let's see. Hold on a second. I think they changed. They go live with, here we go, with Lyndsey. All right, Sandra. To tell you guys that when the technology works for me, I'm always in shock. But I'm hoping this works. It says it's good. Oh, there's Lyndsey. Oh,
Hello.
hello. How are you?
I'm so glad. I'm so good. I'm so glad your Wi-Fi is working.
I,
That's amazing.
I
You
am
never
really
know.
excited. I am really excited too because you do never know. I'm going to try to shift this a little bit. Of course, I forgot my stand for my computer, so I'm like playing with all kinds of weird things. But anyway, it's so nice to see you, Lyndsey.
Oh, you too. Thank you. I love following you and all the awesome things that you do. I was thinking about this earlier. I'm like, you just put so much love and goodness into the world, and I'm so happy to be just in your sphere.
That is so sweet, and that makes me feel so good. You have no idea. And the
Oh,
truth is that feeling of like somebody once said to me, they feel like they're getting a hug when they're following me, which honestly, that could not get a better compliment. So if
that's
anybody
such a
wants a
good
compliment,
one.
but I feel like that's true about Meet Rosie a little bit also. Like I feel like
Oh,
Meet Rosie is like a hug to the world. So
oh, that's
I'm
so
really
sweet.
glad. I'm really glad we're connecting, and I hope the Wi-Fi holds up. And I'm amazed at the technology, and the lighting sort of sucks right now, but we're gonna go with way going. You got my beach hair.
I
I'm
think
in
it's fabulous.
Florida. I'm in Florida. You live in Texas, so it's always warm. So you cannot appreciate what it's like to get out of 32-degree
I
weather, right?
cannot. It sometimes does get cold here, but nothing like in New York. And so I definitely have no jealousy over that coldness at all. I like warm weather for sure. So welcome to the South.
It's so funny because what it does is it makes it harder to get out. I've like discovered like
Yeah.
when I'm in New York. So you guys listening, I don't know how many of you are from the East Coast, Northeast Coast, but like getting out takes an extra 15 minutes, right? You got to get your extra coat on, your extra, pants. You got to put your gloves on. Now you got the mask, and then you've got the scarf, and over the mask over the scarf. It's ridiculous. As opposed to the summer when you just throw on your jacket and you run, right? Like,
Right. Just get out of there. Yeah. Luckily, we don't have to deal with a lot of that. That reminds me of skiing, though. And then plus, when you add the kids in, and then you're like sweating by the time you actually get out of the house. And it's like, just never
just
mind.
get
Forget
exactly.
it.
Our life is a constant ski slope. That's what you
Yeah.
should think about. That's exactly what it is. Okay, so let's talk about Let's talk about Meet Rosie.
Oh,
So
you're so
first,
sweet.
first of all, let's tell everybody about yourself because you're a doctor, and I just feel like that really changes things, the way people perceive things. So why don't you just talk about yourself and your like training and your history and all that?
For sure. So I'm Lyndsey. I'm originally actually from Arkansas, about Sheva. I'm not sure if you knew that. So
I
I'm
did
actually
not.
like a, yes. So I moved from Arkansas to Dallas for my
I did
medical
not know there were
residency.
actually people in Arkansas.
Oh, there's a lot of us. We're very friendly. You should visit. And it's actually
I
a
would
really
probably love
beautiful
Arkansas.
state.
I would love Arkansas. I feel
It's
like I know it from there's some major Broadway show where the girl's from Arkansas. Hold on a second. A South Pacific. Isn't she from
okay.
Arkansas? Okay,
I
anyway, go
have
ahead.
no
All
idea.
right.
We don't get many
I'm such a New
musicals in our
Yorker, it's pathetic. Okay, anyway.
So anyway, moved to Dallas for my residency when I was starting OBGYN training here at Baylor. And then I was in private practice here for 8 years. And when I was taking care of patients, which I love, love, love to do, delivering babies and doing surgery and all those things. All of my patients, not all of them, but a significant number of them had questions about sexual health and sexual problems. And unfortunately, in training, I hadn't learned what I needed to learn to help my patients. And so I started kind of asking around, like, hey, what do you guys do for low desire or sexual pain and da 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 da? And there was just not a lot of information available. So I joined a medical society called ISWISH and became really just obsessed with this field and excited about it, and really noticed this gap, which the same for you, which is the information and the evidence that exists and the number of women that need help, and there's just not anything sort of bridging that gap. And so I decided 2 years ago to leave private practice and to work on Rosie, which addresses that gap, which is the information that's available and the women that need the information. So that's what we're all about, evidence-based interventions for women with sexual questions, problems, who just want to feel better.
Was it a hard decision for you to leave
Oh,
private practice? Because I'm looking at you and thinking, I would love to have had you as my OBGYN. Like, no, really. Like, yeah.
I mean, I loved it. And I have messaged with 2 of my patients today. Like, I don't think we'll ever like completely be out of each other's lives, because I do miss it. And I truly, too, was in an awesome practice with wonderful partners. So there are lots of pieces that I miss of it. And it was a really hard decision to leave. But what happened is that I had the idea for Rosie, and then I looked around and I thought, surely something like this exists. Surely that I've just thought of something that someone else has already thought of, but I couldn't find it anywhere. And then I just got kind of mad.
Because it doesn't exist. Because it doesn't exist.
Yes, and it makes me mad. It makes me mad that there are 26 FDA-approved medications for men's sexual problems and only 2 for women. It makes me mad that we can advertise about erectile dysfunction everywhere, but we can't do anything, advertising-wise for women. All of these things make me really mad, and I'm very stubborn. And so once I was like, I had this idea and I realized these inequities, I was like, I've got to do this, because I'm not sure that it's going to happen otherwise. And I can't sort of let this idea go, knowing how many women sort of need access to these resources. So it pushed me over the edge.
Good for you. Good for you. I don't know if you saw, but a bunch of hearts came flying through when you said that, because I think people get that. That's like really, really frustrating. I think everybody watching and everybody who follows you or follows me, like, there's the sense that there just is not enough information out there, and it's really hard to get it. And so what would you say was sort of the most interesting thing you've kind of learned since you started Rosie?
Oh my gosh. I can't tell you the volumes of books that I've learned since I started Rosie. I mean, coming out of medicine and starting a technology company and fundraising and all that, I think has been incredible. But from a women's perspective, from a sexual health perspective, one thing that's been really interesting for our team, and I think really liberating for a lot of our users, is, really the way that we built Rosie is we said, okay, what has evidence to support that it has efficacy for low desire or for some other aspect of sexual dysfunction? So we knew that education actually could improve, sexual function of women. We knew that erotica could do the same. We knew that also self-help. And so we really brought a bunch of those different components together. But the one that users love and also has maybe the best efficacy in the product is erotica. I mean, you would not believe what a popular part of the app that is. And I am a doctor. I was just doing things because of data. I don't have any erotica background, but it's been such a fun piece of Rosie itself. And a lot of our users have never read erotica in the past, but through the product really learn that is an evidence-based intervention. And then they are kind of liberated in a way, and they can really tightly curate their content where they're only reading things that they enjoy and want to read. So it's been really fascinating.
No, I'm so glad you raised that, because I talk about fantasy all the time.
Yeah.
I have this Fantasy Friday thing I do here on Instagram. And the question is and I'm always struggling with this a little bit, because men seem to have an easy time kind of embracing the fact that their fantasies are just a part of who they are. But women struggle with it so much. And I'm actually curious, do you have thoughts as to why that is?
Oh, I mean, it was so interesting, because when we first were sort of testing this piece of the product before we even launched, I had someone in our first focus group come up to me and said, I can't read this. I personally feel like I'm cheating on my partner.
Oh my God. Yes.
Yeah. And so that's what we've really noticed is we have to be just very intentional about allowing women control over exactly the spice level, exactly the content. And really,
I love that. Spice level is the way you call it. I love that. Because
we have stories that are romantic, like The Notebook, all the way to what are 3 Flames, which is not like The Notebook at all.
It's so funny. That's funny that you say that, because I feel like when I ask patients what things, movies and stuff they've read, watch that turn them on, The Notebook comes up again and again and again. I'm trying. I think Bridgerton is gonna be the new one that's coming up, because people keep talking about that, and it has the same kind of sort of romantic, but less sexual and more sort of romantic with the hints of the sex, right?
Right. No, I think it's great. And that's the thing, is anything can be a jumping off point, right? Just to your point of fantasy, like a fantasy can start from any plot beginning. It's just actually thinking about the romantic scenes. And
or what it is. For some people, it's the romance. For some people, it's not, right?
Sure.
Yes, right. What were you about to say? I interrupted you.
Oh, no, I was just going to communicate an idea that I learned from Lori Mintz. I don't know if you know her, but
I love Lori.
I love her.
Well, yes, go ahead. I love
She's
Lori.
Great. So she said somewhere, I don't know where she said it, but that like whenever you're trying to tune into your sexuality or to your fantasy or desire, that oftentimes women scan by that radio station. Like if you're scanning through the stations and you have a sexual thought, that as a woman, we're sort of conditioned to be like, shut that down immediately. But that men, and maybe our goal as women, should be to stay on the channel, like follow that thought down the road where it goes and see where it lands, because our imagination is just that, is only our imagination. It has no sort of other, meaning behind it. So I think that's a really interesting analogy to think about.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
I think that's 100% true. I think women do. They turn off. Like I talk about it as from neuroplasticity. Like if you don't use parts of your brain, those parts tend to prune. They parts be less useful. There's less neurotransmitters, there's less blood. But if you use that part of your brain, it's more likely to be useful. And so, and I think that women just don't get that you have to practice fantasizing, that you have to, they think it should be just natural, you know?
Totally. And it's, I mean, a lot like we're, this year maybe, or the past few years, we've been conditioned to think about mindfulness. Like it's a practice. You turn on your mindfulness app and you do that for 5 or 10 or 15 minutes every day. And I think if one of your goals is maybe, sexual exploration, sexual expression, then you can treat erotica in exactly the same way. I think a lot of people don't know where to start, and that's a perfect place to start.
So I agree. I could not agree with you more. I'm like, say to women, like, you have to work on this. This is not something that's going to happen. But if you spend a few minutes every day reading an erotic story, trying to get that into your brain. What's fascinating to me is that I feel like women are more likely to think that it's okay to think about romantic things than they are to think about sexual things. Like sometimes the sexual things scare them. And I don't know if that's like a good girl thing. Like a good girls don't think about, wild sex,
Right.
Good girls don't think about like crazy sex, good girls, they're very limited things that good girls are supposed to think of. I don't know. I feel like that's part of the problem.
I think so. I think definitely we have like a box that we are sort of allowed to be in, and maybe those romantic thoughts are okay in there, those married thoughts, those whatever thoughts, and I think that that needs to be challenged because, as you've said, it's just a thought. It doesn't have any meaning other than the fantasy itself.
So is that the part of Rosie that's kind of taken off the best? Is the fantasy or what has tell me what's taken off the best at Rosie, and what's your favorite part? I guess those would be two different questions.
So I mean, I think that what we have found is that users, when they come and join the Rosie community, really come in and educate themselves in a lot of different ways. So we have a ton of different educational videos that are curated based on what's going on in your life. So if you report that you're having trouble with low desire, then you'll get videos, specifically about that, and etc. If you have depression or if you have pain, all those things, you can just get, sort of an education on all of those topics. So that's how users kind of come to us. And then through that process, they learn about the value of erotica. So after the original educational sort of piece, then they kind of hang on with the erotica. But probably my favorite part is that once a month we release a new class that does a deep dive into a particular topic about sexuality. So our very first one that we ever did was with Lori Mintz, actually, on low desire. Then we did one about cancer survivorship and sexuality. Over the summer, we did pain and sex.
Lori didn't do orgasm, because her book Becoming Clitoris is really all about orgasm.
I love that book. Actually, we just released the orgasm class this month, and Dr. Somi Javed did that one. And then you contributed for us on the religion and sexuality series, where we did one for Orthodox Jewish women, one for Muslim women, and one for conservative Christian women. So it's just, we did one for sexual trauma. So all of these issues that I'm aware of and you're aware of, because we practice this every day, but that society, for whatever reason, isn't aware of. And women don't have access to evidence-based resources for these issues that they're facing. So what we know is that women suffer in silence and embarrassment and isolation and shame completely unnecessarily. There are so many people that want to help and that have the ability to help. And so what we try to do is make those resources and content readily available. So maybe instead of scrolling Instagram at night, you're learning something about sexuality or something about yourself that can kind of get you to where you want to be. So that's my favorite part, honestly, are the classes and getting to connect with everybody around the country, truly, who is as passionate about this as we are. So
are people coming in from outside the country? Is this something where I would think, yes, I would think there'd be a lot of countries where yeah.
So we're only available in the United States,
oh,
but people are really mad at us. So like our whole team, like Haley's on here, that we get like Canada people are really angry that we're not available in Canada, the UK.
What does that mean?
Australia.
What does that mean that you're not available? Like,
well, in the App Store, you just have to click a button to be available in different countries, and we're just not available in other countries just because we haven't spent the legal spend that's required to have like the privacy policy and all those legal terms updated. So we're planning.
Oh, I didn't know that. Like, I'm not. Yeah, that's so interesting. So when you create an app, you have to actually have patent, whatever. You have to have permission from each country in order to sell it. Is that the deal?
You definitely want to be in compliance, and we are in such I feel like an important space that yes, Haley's like, we're coming.
Haley's like, we're coming. We're heading there. Which countries are you starting in, just for people who are listening?
I think that our first international launch will be in Canada, just because we have so many physicians and therapists here.
Yes.
And also we have a lot of users request Canada a lot. So I think it would be well worth our time and money.
So you have to do each country individually.
Yes. I mean, if you're going to do it the right way, you have to have a lawyer who has, who practices that type of law to review everything to make sure you're all good.
Wow, this is like where you leave OB/GYN and head into the business sphere. Oh my God, that's so overwhelming. Oh, geez. Okay, well, gotcha. We got sidetracked. Okay.
No worries.
What's it called? Somebody else. It's called Meet Rosie.
Rosie, yes. And so our website is Meet Rosie, MEETROSY.com. And in the App Store, ROSY. In the App Store, you can just search ROSY and it should pop up.
So let's talk about pain a little bit, because pain is a really interesting one, I think. And when I first encountered Meet Rosie, I thought it was such a great platform, because my experience with women with pain is that they feel really, really isolated. And sometimes they sit at home for years not getting help for things they can get help for, because they don't think there's anybody else out there. And like I was thinking, Meet Rosie, it would be so helpful just to give them the information they need. They may need some further help in other ways, but yeah. So how's that been? What's that been
Absolutely.
like?
So yeah, that's been actually a really popular class. It was way more popular than we anticipated. And I think it just goes to show you what an underreported and underserved problem this really is. And so for us, we created that with a gynecologist who's a specialist in pelvic and sexual pain, Dr. Angie Storer. And she really did a deep dive into the anatomy, into the possibilities for pelvic pain, because as you know, there are lots of different reasons that one could be experiencing pelvic pain. It might be something related to the pelvis or something related to something else entirely. So just really educating women so that they can become advocates for themselves. Whether they're working with their physician that they're using currently, or if they've kind of reached the end of their rope with that one and want to advocate to find a new one, which unfortunately in this field sometimes happens. But also educating on the importance of a awesome pelvic floor physical therapist who, are like, besides sex therapists, are other, like,
best friends
in this army. Exactly. And so I think that is just, we don't talk about them enough and what they do and how many different types of conditions that they can be helpful for. So really just educating women, like, these are the possibilities and the problems that can be going on. These are the different people that can help you with this. Here are the organizations that specialize in training these practitioners. And, we even did actually in that class a dilator protocol, just so women could have that to follow along if they were using dilator therapy. We talked a lot about vaginismus and a lot of things I know that you guys take really good care of as well.
Yeah, no, we have a forum also for women just to talk to each other, again, just because people feel so isolated.
Right.
Yeah, no, I think it's amazing. I think it's amazing that you do that. And anybody who's watching who maybe has pain, and if you don't, at some point you probably will, because that's just the reality of our lives, pregnancy, childbirth, menopause. it's a great way for you to get more information, a great way for you to get more information. So I highly recommend that.
Thank you.
So somebody loves you, getting a lot of hearts here. So
maybe they love you.
Oh, yeah.
or what we're talking
Both
about.
of us. They love us. Okay. So here's one of the things that I love best about Meet Rosie. And I think it's worth people hearing about, because I think it's like so important, is that mostly I feel like we live in a world where people have now split the brain from the body, right? Like there's the sex therapists who talk about things with you, like your relationship and how you feel about yourself and how you feel about your body. And then there's the doctors who give you the testosterone, give you the birth control pills, take away the birth control pills, maybe do that, right? And it feels to me like they're living in these two silos when, like I always say, if the doctor can give you X and the therapist can give you X, then these together are X squared. Like we need to live in a world where the therapy and the medical are completely intertwined. And it feels to me like Meet Rosie is working on that. So was that something you thought about when you started, or just sort of came about naturally?
No, I mean, that's definitely was very intentional. And also Sheva is my sort of, you know, and I think a lot of other people, I don't think this is unique to me, but definitely something I believe to the core, that care should be multidisciplinary, really in every aspect of healthcare, right? I don't think there is an instance where we ever separate the mind from the body. That's my bias and my true belief when it comes to healthcare.
But it happens all the time.
It happens
right?
all the time.
But it shouldn't, is what we're saying.
Absolutely.
It shouldn't happen, right?
It shouldn't. And we're doing a disservice to patients when we do try to separate them, because the outcomes, which is what we all care about, are better when we combine the two. And the same is true, particularly for sexual health, sexual function, sexual dysfunction, all of these things, because it all, I mean, I think it's actually, maybe that's the reason I'm so drawn to it, is because it exemplifies that model so perfectly, right? There's absolutely nothing we can do without a great therapist, without, you know, a person on the medical side. And if it started as a mental primary issue, there's probably a physical issue involved, and vice versa. And there's no way to untangle it. And we don't need to try. That's okay that it is that way. And that's actually a wonderful piece of information to move forward and extrapolate to all areas of healthcare. I feel very, very passionately. So I love that you feel that about what we're doing. And I know you're the same.
I feel passionately about it as a concept, and honestly, what you're getting is, it kind of enrages me when I see one, like, you know, I joke around, like, this is my line, like somebody says, you know, she's been seeing a therapist for a year for her vaginal pain or her sexual pain, and I'm like, and she said, well, the therapist said my vagina may not be, it must be telling me I'm not ready to have intercourse, and I'm like, or maybe your vagina is telling you need to find a new therapist. Like, this is ridiculous. Anyway.
So much information from our vaginas.
No, exactly. Right. So I always say to people, like, so you have pain. So it probably started as something physiological, right? Like tight muscles, you know, overactive nerves, the million things that could be causing it. But even if you come in because you have tight muscles and we can solve that problem for you, it also may have created problems that you haven't been able to have normal sexual relationships in the last 2 years. And you and your partner are under a lot of strain, or you're feeling really crummy about yourself. And those things have to be addressed as well. Like everything is, you know, needs to be parsed. And so when women come in and we do like a whole psychological and a whole physiological, I say to them, it's not because we think you're crazy. It's because we really do think these things have to work together. And because Rosie has so many kinds of classes and facets, it kind of allows you to really explore all those different areas, you know?
Yeah, and actually we've created a lot of classes where we do have both a physician and a therapist who have collaborated on the content creation.
Oh, which classes did you do that with?
So that class, the cancer class, is that way.
That's amazing, amazing. And everybody listening, know that there's a cancer class on sexuality, because that is such an under talked about area.
Totally. Yeah, and the same, I mean, that's the trend here that's so unfortunate and so infuriating for me, is that every aspect that we're talking about, pain, trauma, cancer, all these women think that they're suffering only in isolation, all by themselves, and that they are broken and there's something wrong with them personally. But when we just say, hey, you know, 38% of women have low desire, 49% of women have some sexual complaint, that's half of us. So nobody's suffering alone in isolation. No one is broken. There are so many different resources for help on all sides of this equation. And there are so many people who are truly passionate about doing this work. So that's the part that I think is really exciting, is that, you know, when women find out, hey, this is actually really common, and there are really, you know, there are evidence-based interventions for treatment. You don't have to just be buying random serums on the internet anymore.
I know that is, yeah, we can go down that rabbit hole. So is there a class that brings more people in than others? Have you found, like, is there one thing that tends to bring in more people, like data wise? I'm just so curious.
Interesting.
You're going to have so much data on this in a year or two.
We do. No, we do. And I think actually, and we've actually been able to, you know, submit a lot of abstracts this year for poster presentation, and we do have a huge data set. I think it's probably the largest data set in the field, and so we're really excited to be doing a lot of work around the FSFI, the DSDS, all of these classes that we've created, and
the FSFI is the female sexuality inventory, the female sexual functioning inventory. What was the other? Which was the other one you said?
Decreased sexual desire screener.
DS. Right.
Yeah.
All these terms we're throwing around, I want people to understand them. Right.
That's so good.
There are validated questionnaires for people. I just want people to know that. Right. Okay.
Right. And so when our users onboard, they take those screening questionnaires, and all of the data that we use is all de-identified for anyone who's thinking about joining. So we never are like selling data or anything like that. But what we really truly want to do not only is make a better product for the women that we serve, but also to contribute back to the field of sexual health, so that we can further understand, you know, what are we doing? What are we not doing that could be helping these women? And so one thing that's been very interesting on that front, on the data front, is that, you know, from the medical side with this decreased sexual desire screener, we were missing huge reasons that women were having decreased desire. The two that are most prominent that are missing are our history of sexual trauma and also body image issues. And these things are not screened for by physicians. And, you know, therefore the women aren't getting the help that they really need and deserve. So we're really excited to be doing some work in those areas as well from a data perspective.
That's going to be such an incredible contribution. Somebody just wrote in that her husband's never in the mood for sex. So I don't think that Rosie, so first I would say Maze has a men's section. Head over to Maze Men's Health.
Yes.
There may be hormones. There really may be hormone issues. So before you decide he's having an affair or he's addicted to pornography, which is what every woman assumes, know that that's the case. But does Rosie have a class on like partners or yet? Because that would be
we
probably.
Don't.
There
I
you
think
go.
It is definitely on the list, actually.
Oh, it is. You already thought of it.
But we haven't made it. We haven't made it about Sheva. So if you have any ideas for content creation there,
it's so funny because the book that I have coming out has a chapter called Men Are From Mars. Maybe it's time to start exploring Mars. Yeah. So because I do feel like women take on all the issues themselves, and that's not always so noble. So I just would say that. But I think that's definitely a class you should put out there, because I think every woman who's got a partner who's not interested assumes that it's her. We're getting hearts here. It assumes it's either he's having an affair or he's addicted to porn, and that's not fair to him. It's not fair to you. It's not okay. Do you know what I'm saying? So, so that what other classes do you have coming down the pike, or can you not tell us because it's like secret?
Haley, can I tell? No, it's fine. I can tell. So in February, we're super excited because we're doing like a self-love campaign. So we're doing one.
I love that.
I'm so excited on body image, actually, from learning from our users, that body image. And I mean, that seems so obvious, like in retrospect, but in the data, it's not there. Like when you read about it, it's not there. And so we're doing one on, body acceptance and love in February. And we haven't recorded it yet, but we're getting ready for the menopause class.
Oh my God. That's also huge. Totally huge. Totally great. Well, it sounds like there's so much exciting stuff. Is there anything I didn't ask you that you feel like is important for people to know, or like?
Well, the great thing about Rosie is you can download it totally for free. And have access to all the educational content. If you want full access to erotica and to the classes, it's $10 a month. But every month we release a new class, and it's free for the whole month. So the class this month on orgasmic dysfunction, which really goes in from the medical side on all the different components of an orgasm, the anatomy of an orgasm, which it's so fascinating. That's totally free this month. So if you want to download Rosie, check out any of the things we were talking about. That would be awesome. And we always love to hear from our users and from the women that we serve, because that's the whole reason we do what we do, which I know is the same for you, Batsheva. And
do you have a class on vibrators? As you're talking, I'm like, you need a class on vibrators.
How could I forget? Yes, we filmed one in December.
Okay.
It was called
Okay.
Rosie's Favorite Things, after one of my favorite musicals, The Sound of Music.
Of music.
And so, yes, we have one all about like lube, toys, solo vibrators, like partner vibrators, all kinds of stuff.
Oh,
also
great.
Recorded by a physician. So
anyway. This is everything you ever want to download about sex could be found on Rosie. So we love Rosie. Rosie is great. Again, it's Meet Rosie. The app is called Meet Rosie, right? Yes.
So our Instagram and our website is Meet Rosie. So we've really done a number, but the app itself is just called Rosie.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Okay.
No
all
worries
right.
at all.
Well, thank you so much for coming on live with me.
Oh, thanks for having me. And I hope that you enjoy your time away.
On my way, yes.
Get some good rest and
some sun.
Yes,
sun was the
sun. That's awesome.
And when the world opens up, I have to come down to Dallas and hang out with you.
I'm going to come have Shabbat dinner with you.
You are. Totally. Wait, one last thing. Where did the name Rosie come from?
Oh, just like, just like the universe. We were driving in the car. I was driving with my husband, and just like literally came up with the whole entire thing. And then like 30 minutes later, I said, and I think I want to call it Rosie. To me, Rosie means like originally like a person that is professional and has a lot of knowledge, but you'd also want to go grab a drink with. And also it's optimistic, it's romantic, it's sexual, like it just encompasses so many different things.
It's not the name of your child.
No, but I call Rosie lovingly my fourth child, but none of my real children are named Rosie. No.
Well, I love that name. I should have asked you that when we started. So we will be back together sometime soon. But in the meantime, anybody who's watching, you should download Meet Rosie, download Rosie, and Haley, thank you for being here. Not Haley, thank you for being here.
Well,
Lyndsey,
Haley,
thank you for
Haley.
I keep saying Haley's name running through because Haley works with Lyndsey on this.
Haley does everything for me.
So Haley, thank you. But
Yes.
Lyndsey, thank you for being with me tonight.
Thank you, Batsheva. I really appreciate it. I'll see you soon. Be safe.
Bye-bye.
Bye.